Super Team Games! Here's a thrilling series of games that will challenge all your friends. And welcome to Nostalgia, a chronological exploration of every NES game released in North America. I'm Mike.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Joe.
Guys, do you remember the Power Pad?
Vaguely.
From a very long time ago.
I remember going to the Museum of the Moving Image to use it. I'm not kidding.
I thought you meant in the context of the podcast.
I do. Yeah, to play it, I think, for something for the podcast. I found it at the Museum of the Moving Image.
Oh, wow.
I think just like I happened upon it. I was like, oh, I need to play this for the podcast. And I played it.
The museum has, for those of you that are in the New York City area and are out of the COVID situation, I guess, in the future, the museum has an amazing video game collection because that's included as part of their, like, moving images. It's not just film and TV.
It's true. It's that things usually are animated in video games.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You go in there and you see like an NES on like a little pedestal behind glass.
Yeah, and then some people, like, they point, you know, because they're older people, they point out to, like, their kids, like, see that NES? Like, that's really rare. That thing's worth, like, thousands of dollars. Like, but
Did your
some
dad
games
say that to you?
What's that?
Did your dad ever say that to you?
No. I'm just saying, like, that's a thing that older people believe, that anything that is old has a lot of value behind it.
Yeah, I think what they're talking about, too, what a lot of times they tell their kids is like, you know that newfangled nostalgia podcast you listen to? Well, this is what they're talking about.
And then they play it, and the kids are just, like, not excited about it, and he goes, like, I guess your generation's not ready for it, but your kids, they're gonna love it.
Right.
And that works full circle because that means that an old man made a Back to the Future joke that his kids don't even understand.
Right.
Wow,
Oh, my God.
That's a lot
so
of
meta.
layers there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the show is all about. I've been told by several listeners that this show is like an onion.
Like a parfait.
Name 3.
No, I cannot.
Okay.
I legally am not allowed to. That's why
That's fair,
I
that's
cannot
fair,
name
that's
them. Not
fair.
because it did not happen, but because I legally cannot name them. Anyway, back to the Power Pad. The reason I bring it up is because I think in our Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt episode, we were talking about even the Zapper kind of feeling like a thing that was forgotten. But the Power Pad has only really had 2 games, technically 3, but one is just the same game rebranded. So Super Team Games comes along now, and it's like, I guess if you owned a Power Pad, you know, the investment was already there, and Bandai probably felt like, we gotcha. Like, you own a Power Pad, might as well buy some more games for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's that install base thing. I feel like maybe people would have like a little bit of like guilt. Like, wow, why did I waste my money on this Power Pad? I only have one game.
I feel like they're all pretty dusty in a basement already, though.
Probably.
Yeah, it reminds me of, Joe, to your point, the iToy for the PlayStation 2? Yeah, for PlayStation 2. And that had, like, its own game, so it already justified it. But then they made, like, a bunch of, like, franchises got their own, like, iToy version, and you just kind of bought it because you were like, I'd like to see what Sonic can do on the iToy.
Yeah, I mean, even like, I don't know if there was there a dedicated Sonic iToy game, or was there just like a playable mode in a Sonic game?
It was Sega All-Stars was the game.
Because I had even just like, I mean, I had a couple of standalone games for the iToy, but I even had like a Harry Potter game that had like an iToy mode, like of bonus games. I also loved the iToy, by the way. Doesn't get enough love these days.
I would definitely play with my iToy again. I would not play with my Power Pad again. The difference, of course, being that the iToy was somewhat reliable in what you did was represented on the screen. The Power Pad, because you're like stomping on it, the inputs just are not designed to last very long.
Yeah. Also, the inputs are just so. I mean, I know it's not like fundamentally, it's not, or like theoretically, it's not much different than like a dance pad of like DDR. But
That's what I
man,
was
is
gonna
it
say.
just so different.
If
Like,
if
it's
if DDR was an NES title, then I mean nobody would have put that thing away, you know?
the thing is, I just don't think that the power pad, like to Mike's point, could just have the input like quality
Longevity?
that DDR has. Even when it's brand new, I imagine.
Yeah, I
Like-
figure as much. But I
You
mean,
know, Sean,
I'm just imagining like an 8-bit version of dance music, which I think would be great.
I think you just invented like an amazing new homebrew NES game that uses
Yeah.
the power pad.
It's already copyrighted and patented, so nobody try it. I'm working on it right now.
And another thing there, Sean, is like that is just a great idea. I'm still blown away that you came up with that, but not because you're not good at making ideas, but because like that actually seems like something.
Because it came from me. I understand.
It seems like something they should have done. Why do they keep instead focusing on like these, you're at camp obstacle course games instead?
Well, this is the first. Like, at least this is a little bit. This game is a bit more unique in that that camp is the context instead of like you're somehow out at the Olympics or something along those lines. Like, this is a bit more down to earth, I guess, in terms of its setting.
Yeah, like when you get in the giant crab and start walking sideways down the course.
I mean, that's what I did when I went to summer
Right,
camp.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I've never been to summer camp, so I don't know what they do there.
Yeah, but Athletic World, right? Didn't that one also take place at summer camp?
Well, that sort of counters what I said earlier, so I'm going to stick by it and say no.
Okay.
Yeah, I
But
didn't
you're
think
probably
so either,
right.
but-
Yeah, I like how Joe made it into an opinion thing. Like, no,
Yeah.
I didn't
I didn't
perceive
think
that as
so.
summer camp.
Yeah, to me, it was
That
like
was
they were
the
saying it was
Olympics.
summer camp, but I think that there was a deeper story there.
Right. I think that was the same summer camp where Friday the 13th takes place. So
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
shared universe. Anyway, how do we feel? How do we feel about these games? These power pad like games. Are you guys at the point now where we're on game number 4 and you're like, I hope I never see another one of these? Or are you willing to, maybe hope that Bandai has learned something new and useful about the power pad and that they're going to change the way these games play?
Well, let me tell you something. I don't want to see another Power Pad game unless it's just like Twister. Unless it's Twister, I'm not into it.
You see, that's another great. You should be like the power pad, like marketing,
I was,
like the head of their idea department.
I'm in the wrong generation, guys.
Don't say that. Think about it, though. There's 12 inputs on that power pad. Like, it's made for Twister. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah, I also similarly don't want to see any other power pad. I would like to see a Twister game, but otherwise, this has just further solidified my idea that they don't really know how to utilize this thing in a way that's any good.
And I don't want to see any more because, from the best of my knowledge, they're all just made by Bandai because Bandai teamed up with Nintendo to release this power pad. So I don't know of any other power pad games that are going to come out that aren't made by Bandai. And it seems like they just have this idea of, because it used to be called the Family Fun Fitness Pad, they just have this idea of family fun and fitness that they can't detach themselves from. So every game is just based off of like running in place.
Yeah.
And and the power pad isn't really used for anything other than like run in the middle. Okay, now run up top. Now run in the bottom. It's like, all right, that's one way to handle making a video game. But imagine if Mario, the whole thing was you just ran at different speeds.
Yeah, honestly, if they were gonna go and rebrand this, like, and make it the power pad, and not because like what you just said, the family fun fitness like facilitator thing, I would imagine that these would be the kinds of games that come out for it. But because they called it the Power Pad and they did this rebranding, you would think that they would go into these, like, Twister or something like that. I don't know. I think this may have been less of a failure if they just kept the old name, because then this is what we'd only expect from this.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because, well, I don't know, actually. You have the power pad name is definitely not represented here, but I don't think, like, just because something is called the family. It's almost like giving the Wii Fit board a pass because, well, it just plays Wii Fit, and that's good enough. Like, I didn't expect anything more from it. Like, you would still hope that it's still good, right?
Sure. I guess though, if you're, it just seems like a half measure. You call it the Power Pad, and you only release these faux competitive fitness games. You may as well. I mean, I guess we're kind of saying the same thing here.
No, I totally get what you're saying, though. Nintendo should have, when they changed this to the Power Pad and released it themselves, they should have released like a Super Mario Brothers Power Pad game, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's like something they would do nowadays. Like if they designed like a new peripheral, there would be maybe not Mario, but some of their IP based around it. To get it, to get people on board with it.
It seems more like they're just spitefully making Bandai play out the rest of their contract.
Yeah, and just to talk about the game, too, you have Obstacle Course A, Obstacle Course B, and the Super Obstacle Course. But for the Super Obstacle Course is a combination. It's just everything from Obstacle Course A and B. So why is that one like the first option for you to select? Seems like... It just wants you to play the entire game all at once as like the very first thing you do.
Yeah, the entire 12-minute obstacle course that just seems to never end is what you start with. And it really doesn't sell it for me. Because after a while, I'm like, oh my god, I've been playing for like 8 minutes and I'm not even like halfway through the obstacle course.
You went for 8 minutes?
Not literally, but it still was like... It was just ridiculous. Like, did anyone else think that, like, each section of the obstacle course was ridiculously long?
So I just threw this game into an emulator because I don't have. I know we tried to get a Power Pad back in the day, and we would have probably that if COVID wasn't a thing, maybe we would have all been trying to get one just so we could play these games the real way. But we can't get together anymore. We only live virtually. But so I threw it into an emulator. And used my fingers as feet, and maybe it's because like I can twist my fingers faster than I can run and jump. But I was able to do it in like 4.5 minutes, which I guess is like that's a good workout if it's high intensity, right? Like I don't work out, but that sounds about right.
I mean, in the manual, they only suggest like an hour maximum of this game a day.
Oh, so you got to run this game like. You got to run it like 12 times?
I just can't even see anybody doing that.
Yeah, it's just too repetitive. I mean, even like you were saying before, I mean, even when when you change things up, you're still just stomping on the Power Pad. Maybe you're stomping on 2 different buttons, but you're still just, that's all you're doing. The whole game is stomping on the Power Pad as fast as you can.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, like that's all any physical activity is just stomping on the ground,
Well, right. I just mean like, for what about like the way it's presented is like, oh, now you're in the crab walk part of the obstacle. Now you're in the bubble part of the obstacle. Now I mean, granted, there's jumping, which is one nice little break from fake running the whole time. But it's just. Nothing actually really like changes about a lot of these things when you change from a different point of the obstacle course, other than what you're seeing on the screen. It's cute and it's funny to see like, oh, now he's blowing up a bubble. He's going to go through a bubble. Now he's got to tread through all this water. But I just wish that there was some way of making those things mean something more for gameplay.
Well, the crab walk and I think the bubble run are the two that change where you need to be on the Power Pad so that you're kind of are facing it from the side. You're stepping with a longer gait on each of your feet, and that's a cool idea for something like the crab walk because it is kind of mimicking the way that a crab walk looks. But I agree with you, Joe, that if the only thing that's changing is visual aspects of it, like if the log hop which is running and then jumping over logs. And the water cross, which is actually swimming, if the only thing different about those is what you see on screen, then the sections are almost, it's like weird. There should have been something that you do where like, and this is just me getting crazy for a minute, but if you're going to try to emulate swimming on a Power Pad, maybe you do something where you have to have your hands on positions 1 and 2 and your feet on positions 9 and 10. so that, you're kind of like in a bear walk.
Yeah,
and
you're
you have
halfway to Twister.
Yeah, yeah. But you have to like alternate a little bit. So this way it actually like looks somewhat like you're swimming
Right,
as opposed to
exactly.
just running.
I think the swimming element is the best example of what I'm talking about, because it's like you're in water and now it's like, oh, it's harder to get through. But I mean, I guess if you're using your imagination, you're like, okay, now I'm in the water. But really, swimming through the water, you have to do the exact same thing you do to run on land. And you can make the argument like, well, you're going to want to go faster now because the water slows you down. But like, I mean, I guess this is not the best argument, but like, if you can go that fast, maybe you should just be going as fast as you can the whole time. I mean, unless you're trying to save your energy for the bursts you need when you're in the water. But I don't think it's that intensive that you need to do that anyways.
Yeah, it's really just window dressing because like if both competitors have the same like preset areas where their speed is going to be cut down from the same motion. Like there's the same motion for running as it is swimming, but if both competitors have like the same spot where that happens, like there's really no difference. Like you can just keep going at the same pace. It just your avatar on the screen goes slower. It's really just window dressing for it all, and it. I mean, I really don't know how else you could do it aside from what Mike said, but yeah, it kind of sucks.
They do make up for it a little bit though, because if we're talking about like that, the only thing that changes is the graphics. The graphics are pretty nice in the game.
Yeah.
It's a good aesthetic.
It's passable.
There's something about like, and I don't know if it's just because the characters are taking up more screen space than our usual characters that we see in our games, but there's something about the sprite work in the characters that gives them a pseudo like 16-bit quality to them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games. There's been a few games that we've played like this where it's just something about the like. It's weird because it's almost something to me about like the solidness and simplicity of the colors that make it look a little cleaner than other, because they're just keeping it simpler as far as maybe not the sprites, but like the backgrounds.
Yeah, like that part is nice and clean, and so the characters stick out a little more. And I don't know, there's just something about, like, I know it's not 16-bit, I'm not arguing that. I'm saying, like, there's just something about, like, the roundness of the heads and, like, the gloss that they put into the hair to, like, add that spherical shape to them that just makes them feel a little more alive than the usual NES games we see where, like, I don't know, just take Samus or, Simon from Castlevania. Like, take those guys, for instance. They don't look like these guys. They don't pop. But I'm not obsessed with Super Team games. I don't want you to think, like, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, he loves it. The characters look cool. That's all I'm saying. They look like humans. I'm invested in the world in which they go to camp.
Well, I mean, if I can move on to the skateboarding section,
Please.
I think that it's nice that they added like a different mode of play, and like I guess like your rhythm is different in this game, but it seems like it's a little too easy. Like there's no, like you'd think that it would be, you have to kick. You have to like kick the ground to get faster or something along those lines, so that you're not just like slaloming is how they say it, between like different what are they called, traffic cones and stuff like that. But it makes another like it breaks the rules of extreme sports games again, where when you jump on the skateboard, you're just jumping on the skateboard. Like you're not. This isn't how it works. I forgot the other game that did this. We played it.
Oh, with skateboarding?
Yeah, the skateboarding game.
Yeah, it was Wacky Water to
Wood
Town and
Water
Country
Rage.
Rage.
Oh yeah, the surf company.
Wacky Waters.
Yeah.
But that's,
Town and Country
you're
surf design.
stomping. Yes, Town and Country. You're just stomping on the skateboard, and it's I don't know. I'm just rambling right now, but I guess what I'm saying is I appreciate the change of pace, but it's much less engaging, even compared to the regular Super Team games.
Yeah, I think it's just that I think it's a really cool idea to be able, like the switching lanes element of it. But it's just too simple. It's just two lanes. You go one direction or you go the other direction. You just dodge between things that admittedly are not ever really that close together anyways.
Yeah.
So like it's not that hard.
Just take a step
but, like,
to the left, step to the right.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. Maybe if they were like, I can't remember who I was talking about this with, but I always thought that would be a good, or maybe someone mentioned this, that it would be a good idea for the Wii Balance Board to have a skateboarding game, or like.
Well, there was Joe.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Then I know
the Tony Hawk Shred.
Oh,
No, yeah, it was like Tony Hawk Shred, and it came with a skateboard for the Wii, and I think you put the Wiimote in it.
But you stand on this skateboard like
yes,
the balance board.
Yes, it was a skateboard controller. It seems like this is what we all would have wanted for this game to use, but no, yeah, exactly. It failed on the Wii, but it also would have failed here, right? Like, it would have just been another bad power pad-like device that people would have had to pay a lot of money up front for to be able to jump on a skateboard in a video game.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. There's not a lot of like other uses for this theoretical NES skateboard.
And what do you guys think about the fact that you can play with 6 different players?
I think that's the only time that this game would be any interesting, is like if a bunch of people got drunk and decided to play this on a lark, or, I guess if you have, family, you can do that too, completely sober. But I guess that's where I can only think I'd find the interest in playing this game in normal times, and I'm not doing a podcast about it.
I almost think there'd be something really fun about watching the 6 different people play if you couldn't see the TV. You're just watching like a party of people just stomp around frantically.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, there's almost like you want to see a Twitch stream of somebody just playing the Power Pad. I think rather than watching like the NES long play footage of the games themselves, you'd rather have a demonstration of not seeing what's happening on the gameplay, but just watching the person dance on the Power Pad. The 6 players thing, though, there's definitely a family thing there, right? Like, the connection is that, like, the whole family can play, because no families go beyond 6, but, 4 is even, like, impossible right now on the NES for the most part. I think maybe a few games supported it, but you need the NES 4-score adapter. So to have 6 without any adapter and just a power pad, cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that I can't tell because I've been looking at screen caps from this game. Maybe I just didn't play it long enough, or just I didn't explore every angle. But was Tug of War in this game?
I do see. Yeah, I see Super Team Games having a Tug of War as well. I have no idea where that is, but it does look like it's 3v3, so that would be cool. Is that in the
tournament? I mean, so that would be... I have no idea how you would do that, though, unless you got everybody scrunched together, all 6 people on the power pad. I don't know how that would work.
And also, like, the fact that, like, it is 3v3 like that would actually be a very... cool feature here, rather than like 6 people running in place all just kind of competing on screen. The 3v3 element of it would enhance it.
Yeah, so maybe this is a hoax screenshot, but or maybe we weren't good enough gamers to get there. But I'm interested to see how Tug of War would have worked on this.
So I have it here in the manual. Tug of War. You split up into 2 teams, and as soon as you hear the starter gun, you just start running in place, and that determines how you tug on the power pad. So again, just another running in place thing, but you don't necessarily need 6 real people, but you would have if you had 6, you would have everybody standing on the power pad. From positions 1 through 12, everybody gets 2. So you have one person on 1 and 2, one person on 3 and 4, and everybody's scrunched up on this power pad, and you're all just running in place, competing against each other.
I want to see that happen.
I just love the fact that even like a tug of war that has nothing to do with running, the only thing that you can do, of course, is run in place. I just want to see a series of games that like ask you to do other things, that like fly a plane by running in place, and like just like every task you have to do is running in place.
Make this sandwich while running in place.
Yeah, burger time, but it's all running in place.
You know what's funny too here is they have probably the greatest solution to tug of war ever, because if you think about it, tug of war is one of those games where you don't win until you like drag the other team across the line, and that takes like a really long time to figure out like who's got it on which side. So this one says after 30 seconds, the position of the ribbon, whoever like has more real estate wins.
I feel like
so there's no
there
like
are probably
wait.
versions of real tug of war where
I've never played it that way.
I think that's
but
Canadian
I like that
rules.
rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's fair. I almost wish that was just the case for all of these, that you didn't have to finish each thing. It was just 30 seconds and see how far you get. Really, that's what we need in the track and field community, is instead of the distance, it should just be time. It should be like, this is the 5-minute race, and they just find out after like 5 minutes who's the furthest along.
I like that.
Yeah, there's no end. It's just whoever got farther away from the start.
Yes, exactly.
So a marathon should just be like how far you can go in 3 hours.
Yeah, sure. I think that would be a really interesting idea. It would result in, at the ultra competitive level, it would result in a lot of people running very slow together for a very long series of time, and then trying to time like the last 20 seconds of the race to just sprint as far as they could.
That's true. Unless you make people they start at different places altogether. And you just measure the distance. They're not even near each other. They can't even
We're
in sight of each other.
We're designing an entirely new track and field sport right now.
But to be fair, Joe designed a track and field sport that is fair during COVID times.
You know? Yeah.
True.
It's a socially distanced event.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so you guys are probably sick and tired of talking about Super Team games, but I need to mention in this like sequels and spin-off section, if you will, not necessarily that Super Team games got a direct sequel, but in 2007, Namco Bandai, because they joined together, they announced that the Power Pad would see a reappearance for the Wii, and that this version of the Power Pad, just called the MAT controller, will also work in conjunction with the Wii Remote. It connects physically to the Wii console using the GameCube controller port, and eventually they released one game called Active Life Outdoor Challenge, which is very much in the spirit of this Super Team Games thing, so that's why I included it in our sequels and spin-off section here. However, I don't know if the right decision here was to like release a whole MAT controller similar to the Power Pad again, when you just have the Wii Remote and you could just be like, shake that up and down, and that's running.
I guess that it was just maybe
Nostalgia?
they had plans for more. Maybe they had plans to release more stuff. I don't know. I think it does make it a more immersive experience that it registers your footfalls, but I don't see myself playing this.
Is it just the two inputs on the pad?
No, it's like it looks like a Power Pad all over again.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I mean, why don't they just use that balance board? I mean, I feel like that thing can do all this stuff, and it was really only, as far as I knew,
not supposed to stomp on the balance board.
I figure that's probably the problem.
Yeah, the Mac controller, now that I'm looking at it, it's not quite like a power pad. It's more like a DDR pad. But I don't know. There's just something about this where it's like, it didn't work on the NES. And now, 2 decades later, you're making it on the Wii again. And like, did it really sell well enough back in the NES days to like warrant a Wii revival of the power pad era?
Yeah, it might be a little clouded though, because I think, I doubt that there was anybody like in the 80s that was like, wow, the power pad is the best part about the NES. But the weird thing that's kind of clouded about it is that maybe by the time the Wii was out, there were a lot of people that were just like, man, remember the power pad? Like, and they just that like those like rose-colored glasses about childhood, and that's why there might have been like a little bit of an appetite to be like, oh yeah, another power pad on the Wii. I loved that thing when I was a kid.
Now that makes a little bit of sense, and you also have the DDR like matte aspect of it too. So you're appealing to like, I guess, a lot of different people. I don't know if Namco Bandai ever made a DDR like game, but they should have at least used this thing for more than one game. However, the Wii is riddled with this stuff. I think there's even like accessories to put your Wiimote into things, but the actual thing you put it in doesn't do anything different. Like, you could put it in a golf club, but the golf club doesn't register anything, so you're just swinging the Wiimote, but now it feels like you're using a golf stick when you're playing Wii Golf.
Yeah, you gotta love the golf sticks.
We're making a lot of analogies to the Wii in this episode, and I think that makes sense because in many ways, the power pad, the zapper, the power glove, like all of these weird things that Nintendo was trying early on, you don't see them pop up again really for the Super Nintendo or the N64 or the GameCube. It's really only like once the Wii starts to redefine how video games are played with the motion controls, that all of a sudden they're like, these bad ideas we had in the NES times, well, maybe we can revisit them. And turns out they still weren't ready for the technology.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point, though, because, I mean, with the exception of a couple of their Zapper games, I mean, really nothing of their, like, attempts at, I don't know if you'd call it augmented reality, but whatever, their attempts at anything like that have always failed. So finally they were like, we can find some success with this.
And we're going to see if the game is a success when we do our vote in the Essential Games list. All right, Sean, it seems like you can't shut up about Super Team games. You just love talking about Super and teams and video games. So when we put the three together, it's a home run, right?
Well, I mean, there have been a lot of Super games that I enjoy, and Super Team games is not one of them. Zing. But no, I'm gonna go all in on my retro DDR game because this isn't doing it for me. This game had no chance to be on the Essential Games list, where this is all for the ritual of it. So that's all I have to say on it.
All right, and Joe, your vote?
Yeah, I mean, I almost wanted to say that this has solidified my opinion that there's not going to be a good game on this on the Power Pad. But I actually think, if I think back, I think that was already pretty strongly my opinion. So this game has certainly done nothing to change that opinion. It's just too repetitive. I don't think that we'll ever see. I would love to see a good Power Pad game. I don't think that we will see one until Sean's rhythm game comes out.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else really to be said here. Super Team games, gives you its entire load right at the beginning. It's like, here's everything we have to offer. Please enjoy it all at once. And to be honest, I didn't enjoy it. And I wasn't. And also, like, we didn't talk about this, but if you're just going to have the same music over and over again while you're doing the same type of inputs over and over again while you're looking at the same thing over and over again, you're setting yourself up for failure within the first 5 minutes of playing a game. So this makes me think that, like, this is the kind of game that is made but not tested. It's just like, well, we finished it, time to ship it and see who buys it. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, I imagine that when this game came out, I'm sure. What month is this?
We are now in November of
All right.
88.
So some kids got this for Christmas, and I'm sure the family had a grand old time for a couple weeks, but by January 15th, this game was never touched again.
Sean, it's great that you brought up when this game came out because it is November 1st, and that means we have a whole new issue of Nintendo Power to talk about and ask some questions from the 1988 Nintendo Power crew. I do want to note, though, one interesting thing is that Nintendo Power Issue 2 had Castlevania Simon's Quest on the front cover, and we still don't have that game.
We don't. I've been waiting
like a
for
whole
it.
month later. A whole month later, and you still can't play the game that was on the cover beforehand.
I guess I remember when I was reading PlayStation Magazine, PSM, not PlayStation Magazine. They'd have stuff that was like 4, 5, 6 months out. But maybe it was, since this is the 80s and game development time is a little quicker, that would be surprising. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, that doesn't surprise me just because of the world we live in now. It feels like that's not too abnormal, but yeah, maybe in the context it's a little different.
Well, they're keeping the cool cover designs alive in Nintendo Power number 3. You'll remember number 1 is that awesome claymation of Super Mario Bros. 2. Nintendo Power number 2 is this amazing, Dracula-esque, blood red cover that just looks awesome. And now we have as our front cover Track and Field 2.
Oh, God.
And we haven't played this one yet either, so we will see what happens.
Wait, is this back on the Power Pad?
It's not, as far as I know.
Okay.
Remember, Konami made Track and Field 1, and I actually liked that game.
Oh, wait, that wasn't the Power Pad game.
Yeah, it was not.
Yeah, you just hit A and B on the NES controller instead.
Much
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, there's something cool about the Track and Field 2 front cover of Nintendo Power is that it's these futuristic looking shoes that have jet engines on the back of them, so they're bursting with fire, and they have no human legs attached to them. They're just, one's floating in the air, the other one's half on the track, half off the track, and it's just ready to take off into the sunset.
That does sound beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's probably just an artistic thing to show how cool their game is, but I love the idea that Track and Field 1 was just track and field actual events, and then Track and Field 2 is like a cyberpunk future version of Track and Field.
Yeah, it's almost
our legs.
Yeah.
Right, we don't need legs anymore. The shoes do the running in Neo Tokyo. Anyway, we do have questions from the Nintendo Power number 3 issue that I'd love for you guys to answer. Remember, these are questions submitted from children in 1988, so be nice to them. They're now full-grown adults.
Older than us.
And yeah, you guys are full-grown adults too. In fact, these people are older than you.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I said.
More than likely. Yeah. Oh, okay, that's what you said. I'm just not paying attention.
I kind of yawned through it, though, so maybe it was hard.
Yeah.
You yawn on the podcast? I don't know if that's allowed.
Well, it's because it takes so much energy for me to put all this passion into it.
All right, well, here comes Keenan Barra from Troy, Michigan, and he writes, in the past, I have found some very interesting tricks. Not on a game, but tricks to get your parents into letting you play the NES more often. You might say that you have just started a typing unit, and to get your fingers nimble, you have to push some buttons. Then you point to the NES controller that has buttons and a pad. Or you might just say that playing the NES helps hand-eye coordination. These are just a few of the many tricks that I have used to get to play my NES.
Wow.
I like the sentiment there. I think your parents probably might be onto you.
Yeah. I do I think, okay, the second one is definitely a better excuse than the first. Getting your fingers nimble, I don't think any parent would take you seriously for it. But if it's the hand-eye coordination, I feel like I may have used that before. At least maybe not to say hey, Mom, can I play the PlayStation? It would be more to defend the fact that I play video games in general.
Totally. No, that makes sense. I also love the idea of the kid saying, well, it helps your hand-eye coordination, and then 20 minutes later the parents walk into him just stomping around on the power pad as fast as he can.
That's good.
All right, so here's another one. how do you find out all those hot tips for Super Mario Brothers? Do you get them from other members, or do you get them from yourselves?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Is he asking, like, do you discover them yourself, or like?
I think that's what he's saying. Is like, do you discover them yourself, or do you look for them online, or like
Online.
with friends?
Online?
Well, he doesn't have online. But the question is now in the future. Do you understand how we're doing this?
Yeah, I got you.
These
Okay,
kids
yeah,
are
so
from
he's asking us
1988. Yeah. Yes.
For me personally, a lot of my Mario tips just came from like people I knew that were able to do it. But I like to, as much as I can, if it's a game I'm really into, not look up too many of the tips and see if I can figure them out myself. But then when I do want to, yes, I'll look up a guide.
I've gotten way too lax with how okay I am with going online and seeing like, how do I get the best result of this thing or the other thing? Like when I played through Life is Strange 1, I played through it pretty normal, and I just made the decisions that I was going to make. But when I played Life is Strange 2, I was just like, what's the best way to make sure that this happens and not this? And what's the worst case scenario if I end up doing that? I've gotten pretty bad at that, of like owning my decisions. But I guess that's different than tips and tricks, but it still has to do with looking up things.
Yeah, it's similar.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me personally, it's like, I'm sorry, I'm just taking a second turn instead of giving you a turn, Mike. But for me personally, I'm just like it all comes down to whether or not I think that the information I need is like something that'll enhance the gameplay, or just some stupid thing that I would never figure out on my own or would take me forever.
True.
Yeah, I think I brought this up on the Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt episode, but like no one remembers exactly how they found out about the warp zone. It's just kind of something that like everyone knows about, and you don't remember the first time you wind up like, oh, I wonder what's behind the warp pipe. You just find yourself there. And so I think like a lot of something like Super Mario Brothers is self-discovery, but then you have other games on the NES, much more complicated games. I'm thinking of even more recently like Dr. Chaos. Not something that I wanted to like experience on my own and find out. I wanted the answers a lot more, a lot more quickly, and I needed to know for the episode. So I didn't have time to like waste myself like getting through this game, dying over and over again, repeating my same mistakes until I figured out the tricks. I needed them up front. And so for something like that, a harder, less future design driven game, something like that, I will go online for. But if it's something like Super Mario Brothers, where the gameplay is easy in the sense of anyone can play it, I'd be happy to figure those things out on my own.
Yeah.
All right, so we have the top 30 for November of 1988 here. That's for every single NES game released so far. Legend of Zelda, still the number one game of all time, according to readers, critics, and they still include people who sell the games at the stores themselves, the retailers. I think that's it's a dirty trick. They shouldn't include the retailers.
No.
But Nintendo covers themselves here by saying, once again, the all-time favorite. That honor may not last forever, though, as some hot new games are pushing up the list. They're trying to tell you stop buying Legend of Zelda. We got plenty of other stuff here. Number 2, Metroid. Number 3, Metal Gear. Is that surprising?
That is surprising, at least the American version. I mean, I forgot what the gist of my criticism was it in the episode, but I just remember it being like a shadow of its former self on the MSX.
Yeah, I think I had a similar thought with that too. I remember thinking there was so much potential and it was a really good game with a lot of little flaws. But maybe those flaws weren't as apparent back then.
I mean, they also just didn't have anything to compare it to since it wasn't really in the States.
All right, and then real quick, the rest of these, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out at number 4, Gauntlet at number 5, another very surprising one. Number 6, Super Mario Brothers 2. I mean, that's a pretty new game. Maybe people just aren't playing it yet, but and it'll pick up after the holidays. However, I think that one should be a lot higher right now. Number 7, Bases Loaded. And number 8, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. I guess that's like we're excited to see how this game, comes out.
That was
Yeah, I guess the rules
definitely
are.
that was definitely the retailer stuffing the ballot box on that one, getting people to try and like get ready to buy it. I don't.
Yeah.
Is it out anywhere in the States right now?
In the November, December, it would not have been. It literally just made it to the holiday release in time for
Wow.
Christmas, and
That's really
and it was actually like super limited in its availability.
Huh.
Like I remember I think they only targeted like major cities across America because they weren't able to deliver the cartridges in time.
Guess we'll talk about that later.
We'll have to because I mean, Zelda 2 is going to be a big episode coming up. Obviously, Simon's Quest, another big episode coming up. I think next week we have Bionic Commando, which a lot of people like. And we've had some big episodes. We had, just recently, 132, Spy vs. Spy, 133, Super Mario Bros. 2, 134, Anticipation. You can't miss that episode. So the games are going to keep coming. And even though we've played now 140 NES games, an amazing feat for the three of us. But even though we've played 140 of these guys, we've got so many more to come and still so many classics that listeners are dying for us to get through. And you better believe we're going to be there, even if it takes us to 2037.
We will be there.
That's right. It's actually funny to think about how, what did you say, 140? Sounds like a lot. But then when you think, what are there, like, there's like 750 games on the NES?
Yeah.
Yeah, 715 total, I believe, is what we'll be getting through, plus the specials. And, and then when the Game Boy and the Super Nintendo get released, who knows what will happen.
Yeah, we're in it for the long haul.
Definitely won't be playing every Game Boy game, though. That would drive us insane. Sean would probably not. I don't know why I'm picking on you. I'm going to stop right there. You know what? You probably would love it.
No, I quit. I quit right now.
Okay, yeah, well, quit ahead of time. Anyway, we're going to quit the episode, but we're not going to quit on you. 140 games done so far. Another 600 and something to go. You better believe we're going to have a great time. Join us next week for Bionic Commando. The week after that for Blades of Steel. The weekend after that for Bump and Jump, Castlevania 2, Indiana Jones, Othello, Paperboy, Platoon. You name it, we got them. Join us on the Twitter at NostalgiaCast. I'm Michael Esposito. You can find me at Esposito Film on Twitter, and I'll talk to you soon.
Go Bills.